Hello and welcome along to another episode of Robin and Jane in the Stalls, or rather Robin and Jane in the Pews, because last night we found ourselves in a gorgeous little church to see a brand new play, a one-woman show called Queen of the Bees. Now I want to talk about the venue first of all, because this is the Sanctuary Theatre, which is run by the Bright Umbrella Theatre Group. This is over at East Belfast in Castlereagh Street, and these guys have managed to get lots of funding to turn this old church into a fabulous theatre, and I have to say they've done a great job. The main theatre area is amazing, and the bar area, the green room area is amazing as well. Jane, it's a fabulous little space, isn't it?
It's absolutely a fabulous space, and I think they use it very well. And an absolute plus, you can take your glasses of vino into the into what was the church, into the auditorium.
And another plus as well, the wine was actually very good.
The wine was indeed very good. I had a nice Shiraz. Now on to the play. I think the debut play, Queen of the Bees, comes from the sound effects guys, I have to say. The effects of the sound of the swarms of the bees were amazing, a bit like an EasyJet 737. I was disappointed overall, but there were some things I liked. Maybe I'll begin with those.
Yeah.
I liked the lyrical sense of connectedness with nature. We started with an apiarist, i.e. a beekeeper, running onto the stage and casting kind of fake bees left, right, and centre. And you caught one in your glass, actually, didn't you?
I did have high hopes for the show when she came running through and the bees were flying everywhere, but if you are going to see the show and you are taking your drink in with you, cover it during this moment, because I spent about 15 minutes fishing dead bees out of my vino.
And then there was quite a quiet and silent introduction to the piece, in which we saw Ellie, our main character, acted also by the author, Johanna Gallagher, foraging for something to eat. And we heard bird song. This went on a little bit too long for my taste, but there was a sense of her in nature. And that crops up throughout, also via the bees. And the bees have healing properties in two ways. One, psychologically, because we learn that Ellie has lost somebody key in her life. We don't know who until right near the end of the play, actually. And also physically, because we have these two rather unusual characters, Frank and Susan, introduced. And Frank has come along with a very Ballymena accent. Boys a dear was thrown in left, right, and centre to buy some bees to sting his wife. Now, that initially raised a laugh. It shouldn't have done, because the wife is seriously ill and bee venom is thought to be an alternative treatment for some of her awful symptoms. And we meet them later on. So I like the connected with nature. I wasn't so sure about the two cultures who were introduced and acted again by Gallagher, with many a physical movement to indicate they were a bit older. I suppose it is about healing. It is about nature. It is indeed about bees, and we learned lots of interesting bee facts, including the stuff about the classicists who used to say you had to tell the bees if there was a death in the family or a wedding or a birth. Talking about the death, there was a problem there, because initially you assumed it was a mother or a parent, because she talked about wrapping this person up as they became increasingly frail and watching television with them. And it was all girlish reminiscence. Well, in fact, it turns out much later on, and here I am, the queen bee of the spoiler alerts, it turns out to be her husband, and we would never have guessed that. Now, maybe that could be the sting in the tail. I don't know. But for me, it didn't actually work. And I think she needs to look at that aspect of the play. I don't think we need that surprise element. It undermines really the meaning and the theme about redemption through looking out your window and getting some bees.
Let's come back to the two characters from Ballymena that she plays in the show as well, because I thought once Paddy Jenkins had done the big shopping centre in Ballymena TV advert, we'd got over taking the piss out of the Ballymena accent, but we clearly haven't.
Exactly, but clearly not. No, we haven't, and that's a shame, because had they been toned down, there could have been something interesting there, I think, because they want the bees for a different reason, but they look after them too. And there is a sense in which the bees look after their owners as well as vice versa.
Well, I
Excuse me, and that's interesting.
I get quite excited when the guy came to ask for the bees and said he wanted them to sting his wife. I thought, hang on here, we're going to have a Martin McDonagh moment. We're suddenly going to get all dark and scary and quite violent here, but we didn't, of course.
I thought we were going to get something really dark and sinister, and sadly not. But I think it has lyrical passages. It has some quite nice lines about the bees being a force, a spirit, a presence. And the queen bee of the title has a real character. And apparently, queen bees, and I didn't know this, they pipe at you, they kind of sing. And she gets a new queen bee at the end because the queen bee has disappeared. And she's very upset and distraught, but she gets a replacement who sings at her. And I'm not quite sure about the sound effect of the singing. That seemed a little bit too amusing in a way, but the meaning was nice, the intention.
The bee sound effects were very good when they were used, because there were sometimes they seemed to forget about them, like she opens the hive and there's swarms of bees everywhere and no sound effects, but then sometimes you got it for one bee.
Absolutely. And also once I think a bee intruded where no bee should have been. We had a bee noise where we didn't need it. What did you think of the direction overall and the lighting and so on?
Yes, I'm going to mention the lighting as well because for the first half of the show, we see kind of like the same lighting state the whole way through. And then it seems in the second half, they thought, oh, hang on, there's a lot of lights in here. We may as well use them. And suddenly, out of nowhere, you get this dark scene with a spotlight appearing on the stage as well for no reason whatsoever. And then she walks off into the darkness. Just because there's a spotlight there doesn't mean you have to use it.
No, it absolutely doesn't. That's very good advice. And I think in terms of directing, I think physically, I think as Ellie, Johanna Gallagher is better than as the other two characters.
Definitely.
I think that worked quite well in places. But I think overall, maybe they just need looking at the surprise element of the husband and one or two aspects of the tone. It's a question of the tone of the play that needs to be perhaps tweaked.
I wondered during it as well, did this start off as a story before it became a play? Because it seemed like an adaptation of a story that hadn't really quite been done as a play, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I think you're right. I mean, the theme of The Power of Nature reminded me of a play I saw at the Edinburgh Festival a year ago, and that was The Outrun with Saoirse Ronan, and that was superb. Again, that had some flaws. It was about a woman recovering from alcoholism and going to a Scottish island and saving some birds and so on. So it had similarities in theme. It was, I think, better overall, although it did have some flaws. But I think here you just need to tweak some things and look at the tone overall.
Another thing about this show as well, it was supported by C21 Theatre as well. It was part of their early playwrights development package as well.
Yes, that's impressive. I mean, we need to develop our new talent. Northern Ireland punches way above its weight in the arts, in all the arts, including writing from Mary Jones to Owen McCafferty to anybody you care to name, really. Actors, Liam Neeson, Kieran Hines, Rory Conahan, who's my brother-in-law. Shouldn't really mention that, but and we've got Caroline Curran. I mean, we're rich with talent, and I think it's good to foster the new generation.
Yes, rich with talent and now rich with more fabulous venues as well, like the Sanctuary Theatre, which for anybody who hasn't been to see over in East Belfast, give it a chance. Go and see something or use it for something as well, because it is just a great space.
Absolutely. And a David Ireland is coming up soon, Ulster American, in August. So we're looking forward to that.
With Caroline Curran in it as well.
With Caroline Curran, no less. Yes, indeed.
So there we go. Right, it's that time now for us to make up our final decisions on the Queen of the Bees. Did it leave you buzzing as you left the theatre, or did it leave you raising to your feet and running out to catch another glass of wine at the bar? Jane, we'll start with you. How many little buzzy bees are you going to give the Queen of the Bees?
I'm going to give it 2.5 buzzing bees because I think overall it was more worker bee than queen.
Okay, so there we go. That's Jane's decision. And for me, I'm afraid I'm going to go a little lower than that, and we're going to have 1.5 little buzzy bees. So there we go, that is Queen of the Bees, and we'll be back in the stalls or in the pews or on the roof or somewhere else sometime very soon. In fact, coming soon, we've got ghost stories at the Grand Opera House. We've got the one we've all been waiting for, The Importance of Being Earnest, at the Lyric. It's nearly time, Jane.
Dust off those outfits and those hats. I know, and practice handbag. I'm just wondering how that's going to be done. I hope it's going to be witty. I'm sure it is. I mean, wild, wit. What more do you want, really? Costumes,
Exactly. Well, handbags at the ready.
romance. That's what we want.
Oh, yes. Handbags at the ready. We're going to tell you all about that in the next week or so. Keep an eye on our socials. And if you want to comment on anything that we've seen, anything that you've seen in the theatre, get in touch with us as well. And we'll see you back in the stalls sometime very soon. Thank you for watching.
Indeed. Bye-bye.